You work hard. Nobody questions that. Long hours. Consistent effort. You show up when others don't. You grind when others quit. And yet, at the end of every month, there is barely anything left. No savings worth speaking of. No investments. No financial cushion. No real sense that you are building toward anything. Just the cycle. Work. Earn. Spend. Repeat. You tell yourself you just need to earn more. That if the salary was higher, if the business made more, if you just worked a little harder, it would all click into place. But here is the truth that most people spend their entire working lives avoiding. Hard work is not enough. It has never been enough. Hard work without financial intelligence is a hamster wheel with better scenery. You move constantly. You exhaust yourself genuinely. And you end up exactly where you started. Today I'm breaking down the real reasons why hardworking men stay broke and what actually needs to change. This is not about working less. It is about thinking better. Subscribe for more from the Examine Man, and let's get into it. Let's establish the core problem first. There is a myth, deeply embedded in how most of us were raised, that hard work equals financial success. Work hard, get paid, build a good life. It is a clean, simple, morally satisfying equation. And it is incomplete. Hard work is necessary. It is non-negotiable. A man who does not work hard will not build anything worth having. But hard work is only one variable in a much larger equation. The other variables, the ones nobody taught you in school, the ones your parents probably didn't know either, are what determine whether all that effort compounds into something real or simply keeps you functional. Those variables are what you do with what you earn, how you think about money, and whether your effort is pointed in a direction that can actually scale. Most hardworking men have the first variable locked. They work. Consistently. Relentlessly even. It is the other three where the gap lives. And that gap, between effort and financial intelligence, is the difference between a man who retires with options and a man who works until his body gives out. Reason 1. You are trading time for money, with no plan to stop. This is the most fundamental trap. And almost everyone starts here. You work. You get paid for the hours you put in. The relationship is direct and simple. The problem is that time is finite. There are only so many hours in a day, only so many years in a working life. And when you trade time directly for money, with no other system running alongside it, your income has a ceiling. A hard one, defined by how many hours you can physically work. The man who builds financial freedom understands one thing clearly. At some point, money has to start working for him, not just the other way around. That does not mean quitting your job tomorrow. It does not mean passive income schemes or get-rich-fast thinking. It means that while you are working, a percentage of what you earn is being deployed elsewhere, into investments that grow while you sleep, into skills that increase your value over time, into assets that generate returns independent of your hours. Even small amounts, invested consistently and early, compound into something significant over a decade. The man who puts 10% of every paycheck into an index fund at 25 and never touches it will have more financial security at 45 than the man who earned twice as much and spent it all. Not because he worked harder, because he understood that the goal was never just to earn. The goal was to build. Reason 2. Your lifestyle expands to consume every raise you ever get. This one is so common it has a name. Lifestyle inflation. You earn more, and almost immediately, you spend more. The raise arrives. The rent goes up. The car gets upgraded. The dinners get more expensive. The wardrobe gets updated. Not because you planned it. Not because you decided to reward yourself. Just because more money in the account creates a subtle permission to spend more. And the result? The man earning $50,000 a month and the man earning $5,000 a month can end up with the same amount of savings at the end of the year. Which is nothing. Because both of them spent what they had. The solution is not to live like a monk. It is to make saving automatic, before the money hits your spending account. Pay yourself first, not what's left after expenses. First, decide a percentage, 10, 15, 20% if you can, and move it immediately when income arrives. Before you see it, before you spend it, before it becomes available for lifestyle inflation to consume. What you don't see, you don't spend. And what you consistently don't spend, compounds into the kind of financial foundation most people only ever imagine having. Reason 3. You are working hard in the wrong direction. This one requires honesty. Not all hard work is equal. A man can work 60 hours a week in a role with no growth ceiling, no equity, no skill development, and no pathway to anything beyond a slightly larger version of the same paycheck. That is hard work. It is genuine, exhausting, real effort, and it will not build financial freedom. Because effort applied in the wrong direction does not compound. It just accumulates fatigue. The questions worth asking, and most people never ask them, are these. Is the work I am doing building a skill that increases in value over time? Is there a ceiling on what I can earn in this role? And if so, what is it? Am I building something that I own? Or am I building something for someone else that I will never have equity in? Could the same hours, applied differently, produce a fundamentally different financial outcome? These are not comfortable questions, especially for a man who has invested years of genuine effort into a path. But they are the questions that separate men who work hard their whole life and retire on a fixed income from men who work hard strategically and eventually build something that outlasts the hours they put in. Direction matters as much as effort, sometimes more. Reason 4. You treat financial education as optional, and it is costing you everything. Most men know more about their favorite sport, their hobby, or the latest phone model than they know about money. Not because they are lazy, because nobody taught them. Because financial literacy is not part of the standard education most people receive. And so they operate on defaults. Spend what comes in. Maybe save a little. Avoid thinking too hard about the numbers because the numbers are stressful. That is not a financial strategy. That is financial avoidance. And avoidance, in any domain, is just slow motion losing. The basics of financial intelligence are not complicated. They are not reserved for people with business degrees or wealthy families. They are learnable by anyone in a relatively short amount of time. Understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Understand how compound interest works and how to make it work for you instead of against you. Understand the basics of investing, index funds, tax-advantaged accounts, long-term thinking. Understand your actual monthly numbers, income, expenses, savings rate, with precision, not approximation. One good book on personal finance will outperform years of working harder with no financial framework. The man who earns average and manages it intelligently will always outperform the man who earns well and manages it carelessly. Financial education is not optional. It is the multiplier on everything else you are doing. Reason 5. You are spending to feel successful instead of building to become it. We touched on this in the last video, but it deserves its own place here. A significant portion of what hardworking men spend their money on is not serving their life. It is serving their image. The car that signals success, the watch that says arrived, the nights out, the clothes, the visible markers of a man who is doing well. All of it costs money that could be building the actual thing it is pretending to represent. Here is the brutal arithmetic. Every 1,000 spent performing success is 1,000 not compounding toward it. Over 10 years, with even modest investment returns, that gap between the man who performs wealth and the man who builds it becomes enormous. One has the appearance, the other has the reality. And the appearance requires constant maintenance, more spending, more performance, more keeping up. While the reality, quietly, invisibly, without any performance required, just keeps growing. The most financially free men you will ever meet are almost never the ones who look the most successful at 30. They are the ones who resisted the performance long enough for the reality to catch up, and then surpass everything the performance ever promised. Here is the truth that ties all of this together. Working hard is a virtue, but it is not a strategy. A virtue gets you in the game. A strategy determines what you build while you are in it. The man who works hard and thinks clearly about money, who saves before he spends, invests before he upgrades, learns before he earns, and points his effort in a direction that can actually scale. That man is building something. Slowly, quietly, without much to show for it in year 1 or year 3. But by year 10, by year 15, the compound effect of those decisions becomes visible in a way that no amount of hard work alone could have produced. You were never going to work your way to financial freedom. You were always going to have to think your way there. The work was necessary. It is still necessary. But the thinking is what turns the work into something that lasts. Start thinking like the man you want to be in 10 years. He is not just working harder than you. He is working smarter, saving deliberately, investing consistently, living below what he earns and building beyond what he shows. Become that man. Not someday. With the next financial decision you make. So here is why you work hard, but stay broke. 1. You are trading time for money with no plan to stop. 2. Your lifestyle expands to consume every raise you get. 3. You are working hard, but possibly in the wrong direction. 4. You treat financial education as optional, and it is the multiplier on everything. 5. You are spending to feel successful instead of building to become it. Here's where to start. This week, sit down with your actual numbers. Income, fixed expenses, variable spending. What is left? What is saved? What is invested? Not an approximation. The real numbers. Most men avoid this because the numbers are uncomfortable. Do it anyway, because you cannot fix what you refuse to look at. And once you see it clearly, one change. Just one. Automate a savings transfer. Cut one performance expense. Read one chapter of one book on personal finance. One move. This week, leave your biggest takeaway in the comments. These conversations are worth having. You were never going to work your way there. Start thinking your way there instead. Build accordingly.